Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, Joey McGuire has a message for you, John Q. Red Raider fan. We also get to a linebacker shuffle, under which Cup is the new starter. And we discuss how to avoid being beaten by the Cowboys twice. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to see you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thanks for making us your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Or enter the promo code lockedoncollege at birddogs.com for a free hat with any purchase. And you won't want to take those bird dogs off. That we promise you. He's the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again today, my man, and got a chance today to take a listen to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire on a couple of different subjects. We'll get to some things that stood out to us also from yesterday's weekly press luncheon. But first, let's take a listen to Coach McGuire talking straight to you and me and all Red Raider faithful. He was asked about a message to the fan base following the week one disappointment. And here is Coach McGuire.
There's two things. One, I think they ought to react the way they want to react. I've read all of it. Now I encourage that. Literally, I got on the plane and Debbie said, "Don't get on social media." She already knows I'm a messed up person in the head. I really am. There's a coach, and I totally understand where he's coming from. But Sark said, "Embrace the hate," and some of that stuff fuels the fire. I did recommend the players not do that, because I'm 52 years old, and what anybody says. I've been doing this for a long time. I grew up coaching in South Dallas, where football is life. Like everything around those communities is. So I've heard this, before, and I get it, man. They're fans, and I totally understand it. And trust me, I feel the exact same way. There's nothing that's been written or put in social media that I feel the exact same way. I mean, trust me, I'm saying it in my own head. And, some of the comments in my own head if that would have got out on social media, you ought to have been all going like, what's this dude saying? Did he really just say that? And so I get it. The one thing I will say about showing up that I'll never question with the Red Raider fans and alumni, they're going to show up. They have great pride in this university. And they showed up in Wyoming. I was so proud to walk through that crowd wearing the red and black. And, I don't see anybody staying away. And I hope they don't, because it's going to be a great home opener. There's so many great things going on. I mean, we're seeing iron being put up now for the second level. You've got a brand new field. The lighting's going to be incredible. And we're going to play really hard. We're going to play really hard for them. And so you can't, the people, whenever you're talking about fans, you can't be a fair weather fan. You're either in or you're not. And if you're in, say whatever you want to say. If you're not in and you're not all the way in, that's when you maybe need to shut your mouth. And so I'm one of those guys that I'm all in. This team's all in, and I know this fan base is all in. It's going to be a great opportunity. That's the word that we've used a lot, even before the Wyoming game, that we have a great opportunity in front of us.
Woo, lots to take in there, Chris. And as always, seems to be speaking from the heart. What'd you make of what Coach McGuire had to say to the Tech faithful?
Well, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of it. I saw a lot of it immediately, and they were walking to the locker room, and there's things said. Not all negative, but some like trying to be positive and all that. But it's just part of people care. It gets really scary if you're coaching or playing somewhere and nobody says anything after a win or a loss. It's just kind of like the apathy sets in. But I think Joey's got a lot of people engaged, and with that, and there's people out there that are going to just pop off no matter what happens. We all know that one friend that's just looking to complain or whine about something all the time. But he did. I think he paid attention to what some of the things that were said, and again, we touched on it yesterday that his words were being used against him. In a lot of these things, that just comes with the territory. That everything runs through Lubbock, 60 minutes of us, all the stuff. Everybody hyping up Tyler Shuck's record as a starter. All these different things. So anyway, that's sports, man. And I love competition in sports, and this was the other side of it. Most of the time you love sports because it's like, oh, great win, emotional win, Bryce Ramirez story. Well, this is the other side, man. Anything can happen. I think you feel really bad after the weekend. I don't know if you feel as bad as like a Clemson or an LSU out there that had hopes for a national championship, and it's kind of gone before you even get started. But this was, this was a bad loss, and I think though that they all told you that, but it's just one, and there's so many, there's so many questions about like how and I think Joey, even said yesterday, I pride myself on winning these kinds of games, figuring out a way, and I just couldn't do it. But that comes with the territory at a high-profile program and a high-profile job and all that. People are going to question and, pull the quarterback. What kind of plays are we calling? Did we not practice tackling all August? What were y'all watching with this kid kicking field goals? I mean, what are we doing? This is like everybody questions everything. That's the deal. That's how it goes.
And Chris, I think, tell me if you would agree or disagree. I think over the years, we have found, and maybe personally we found in our own experience, sports or life, by the way, I think just about any coach would tell you that they could probably teach more or get more out of a reaction to failure than success. Not that you would ever draw it up. You don't want to take an L, clearly, but what should be the more powerful motivator? Well, being embarrassed and not getting the result that you want. And I'm not saying it's like some great humiliation to go lose on the road in double OT at all. There are embarrassing aspects about it. Is it something that makes me want to go stick my head in a pit that I've dug for myself in a local municipal park? No, I don't think so. But motivation as a result of failure is as powerful as it gets. And if you're not motivated in those circumstances, that's also a good opportunity to learn that maybe this isn't for you. Like a day job is fine too if you go to that portion of your life. We all do eventually. But this should be a week where McGuire can look at his coaches and say, guys, this should be easy to get these fools up for this next one because of what happened last time and because of the opportunity that you've got coming up ahead of you. I think every coach, every sport in America would say, all right, here we go. This is the time to go to work, because if their attention isn't gotten now, when would it ever be gotten? So I hope that these guys that we do still think are capable, and I still do as leaders and coaches, are able to squeeze that out of them this week, because you've got a great teaching tool, obviously, from Laramie, Wyoming.
Yeah, I think that some of those kids and I think staff, there was a level. There's a level of I think I used the word kind of, I don't know if shock is the right word. It was just kind of like having like what just happened kind of thing, and
I do know. I think most fans know.
Well, yeah,
the same thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was a weird set of circumstances with the delay and all the things, and then you come out hot and then just start. I've seen the Wyoming fan who's gotten really mouthy, by the way, but to the victor goes the spoils. Talking about the altitude. It's 1720 or 7220, man. Like that. That's why you got out of whack, or whatever they've all said.
I've seen that too.
The feet above sea level. I just think it was execution. I guess that make you throw it low or have a bad snap or miss a tackle or.
It's very generous to give us those excuses, so thank you, because we've had them in the YouTube comments. I'm shocked by your westerly generosity, neighborliness, I guess is what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think that was it, though.
Yeah, Wyoming. This isn't even. I don't think that's the hard part. And we'll see what they end up doing, but I don't think this is supposed to be a great Wyoming team. They play Texas. Here's an interesting anomaly. They actually play So Wyoming, I think this Saturday plays Portland State. So the two teams in Lubbock and the two teams playing, and I think that game's in Laramie, played each other last Saturday. So that's who Oregon played, was Portland State. Tech was playing Wyoming, and then those two opponents will play each other, and with Tech playing Oregon. So I just thought that was an oddity.
Yeah.
And then Wyoming goes to Texas the following weekend. So I don't know if you just got beat by a superior team. They're not more talented than you are. They certainly executed better than you did. But, I think that you've got to absolutely learn from it and learn quickly and realize that, the result ought to motivate you because it can go south in a hurry if you're not careful. And the scary part is you can play really well this weekend and still be 0-2. That's how good Oregon is.
No question. And we'll get to something coming up here in just a bit that kind of ties into that. Coach McGuire also talked about not letting that result linger in the sense that you would be beaten twice by the Cowboys. We'll get to that and other things that stood out to Chris and I from Coach McGuire's conversation with the media yesterday. And also dead ahead, we'll get back to Coach McGuire talking about one of the focal points of the week. No question now, with Jacob Rodriguez out, 4 to 6 weeks is the timeline, which may be actually a pleasant surprise given some of the expectations that could have been out there. But now what does it mean for the rest of those guys among that group of linebackers? The shuffle is on. We'll get to Coach McGuire and more on that next on Locked On Texas Tech. First, today's episode brought to you by Birddogs. They're making you look good, feel great with their stretch shorts fitting slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you that sculpted look like you'd never had before. If only Ralphie May were here to see this. R.I.P. Sweet Prince. Way more flexible than that stiff, restricting stuff you're used to, thanks to their cloud knit fabric. Always made with organic, range-free clouds. It's going to stretch to give you movement without sacrificing that slimmer fit. And don't forget about that anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric. Your significant other won't, because it's keeping you dry, smelling good all day long, any occasion. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege right now, and you're getting a free hat with every order. That's at birddogs.com/lockedoncollege, or enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege for that free hat. And right now, get into something you don't want to ever take off. Guaranteed with Bird Dogs. Glad to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you got this podcast so you never miss an episode. Let's dial it back once again to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire visiting with the media yesterday. And of course, now we have got quite the situation at the linebacker spot, which we had already. Depth not there. Proven commodities only slightly there in the form of Josiah Pierre, who was at a different position last year. Jacob Rodriguez is going to be a newbie anyway, but really excited about what he could have been as a football player. We heard from Coach McGuire yesterday, Chris, 4 to 6 weeks, which maybe seemed a little bit more pleasant, I guess. I mean, you had some fears or maybe something a little bit longer, so I hate to say, hey, 4 to 6 weeks, that's great news. But, man, we were considering, like, on the shelf for the season. I don't think was crazy at the time, right? So that was actually a sliver of maybe a better outcome than we anticipated with Rodriguez's timeline.
Yeah, I think it's great news because I felt like it was going to cost him a season personally. I think that was there was some, just fear there based on the kind of injury that it looked like. But again, rookie opinion, rookie observation, all that stuff, non-medical diagnosis. But I think I'd be willing to tell you, I bet it's closer to 6 than 4 weeks. But that's okay. I think that he'll be able to play some football for you this year. I think that his season is not over, thankfully. So as long as there's not a setback, they're going to put him in a boot, get him so that there's no weight on that thing, let that thing heal up for a period of time, and then I guess he starts rehabbing, whatever that looks like. But
yeah.
And so with that, Cowan, this goes back to a lot of times when the offensive line conversation would come up, you hear we're just trying to get the best 5 guys on the field. it's tricky because good quarterbacks, they can wreak havoc on young or inexperienced linebackers, and that's because that's the position that you base everything off of. When you see a quarterback get up to the line of scrimmage, they're like, they point across, it's like, 52's the mic, 52's the mic, and everything revolves around like where that guy is, and you can kind of play chess a little bit. A good quarterback can, and Bo Nix is certainly that. So, we'll see, but that's certainly, and again, it's just a position that we talked about all offseason. It's a bit tricky, man. It's just like, it's the one spot, that and the star, where there's just not a lot of experience and proven experience. So you knew this. Unfortunately, you got dinged up a bit there, and so away you go. You just gotta make do, next man up.
Let's take a listen to Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire talking about that linebacker shuffle.
And Roberts has been taking reps at Mike. We're actually going to move Josiah, who was extremely productive. Man, I was really proud of the kid. And, he's been really critical of himself because he knows he could have played better, but I think he ended up with 14 tackles. We're going to put him at will where Jacob was and let Ben have the Mike role. He's going to start for us this week just because that's where the majority of his reps are. Ty Matthews will play both and play a lot. You're going to see Trent Lowe. You're going to see Ty Kana. He's back. He played special teams. You're going to see Wesley Smith, Michael Dingle. And so those guys, but we're going to start off with Ben Roberts and Josiah Pierre. And, we're excited about Ben. He had a great spring, and didn't get going to camp until really that last week. And, it's tough with Ty and Ben because those two guys, and really if you think Ty Kana, those guys didn't get camp. They basically had a week and a half, and they got thrown in there playing probably more reps than what we expected them to play just because of the type of game it was.
Crazy that we are already here, Chris, at that spot, and we know how frightening it is when your linebacking core is inexperienced, unproven, green behind the ears, and aside from Josiah Pierre, you have got a ton of that. And of course, as we've just run down, Josiah Pierre now has to do some different things on top of the different things he was asked to do coming in to the season. Just wild, and something obviously to pay close attention to as, you line up against an offense that put 81 on the board a week ago. Let's wrap up here, coming up dead ahead with some general thoughts, little scatter shooting. We'll just go across the bow here with some things that stood out to us from Coach McGuire's conversation yesterday, including the thought of not wanting to be beaten by Wyoming twice. We'll get to that next on Locked On Texas Tech. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Prepare thyself today for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel. Today, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. But that's not all. All customers, new or old, who bet $5 are going to get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And that makes right now the best time to join FanDuel by downloading their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app where you can bet on anything and everything. And, of course, when you're a winner, you're always paid instantly with FanDuel. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season with an offer you can't afford to miss. For new customers, $5 you're betting, you're getting $200 back in bonus bets. New or old customers that bet $5, you're getting $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube or YouTube TV. Again, at FanDuel.com/Locked On. Take advantage of the offer today with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Texas Tech a part of your day, whenever, wherever, however you're making it happen. We appreciate you for that and would appreciate the Red Raiders putting Wyoming behind them. One of the first things we heard Coach McGuire talking about yesterday, Chris, not letting the Cowboys beat you twice. You got your hands full enough, obviously, with the Ducks coming to town themselves, but it's a thing in sports where you have a disappointing outcome and you allow that to linger and impact you to a degree that it does contribute to a loss thereafter. And avoiding that much easier said than done, but obviously something that'll be a theme this week. Turning the page and moving on.
Yeah, I learned that a long time ago when I got started doing this. I'd go up to the building, after a tough game, and you expected it to be doom and gloom, and you expect it to be like the message board or
right.
At that time. So it's like everybody's just mad and throwing stuff and irritated and just like whatever. And you go up there, and it was usually business as normal. This is 20 something years ago up until today. It's like upbeat, normal. And all those things, and that's the discipline, and it should look the same way no matter what the result from the previous weekend. You simply cannot, and Joey even walked over to me. I was outside the press conference room yesterday, and he walked to me. He's like, "Come on, Level, 24 hours, man. It's like time to move on." And I just was looking at my phone, and I didn't have. I think I just must have had a blank stare on there, but he was trying to get me to, and for people like us, and fans, you do dwell on it. You talk about it. You diagnose it. You analyze it. You do all these different things. And it always is weird to me when I'll get to like this Thursday and I'll do Joey's show with him. You kind of have that first part of the show where you look back because they've moved on like 5 days ago.
Right.
From that. That is so far in the rearview mirror, and it would be the same whether you had won or lost. That's just the nature of the business. Because they've already memorized Oregon. They're already practicing Oregon. They're already trying to dig into everything there. But that's the discipline. It's like, what's next? And again, it doesn't matter what happened before. You've got to move on. And he even talked about it a little bit yesterday, and said, I thought we came out a bit flat or didn't play well against Kansas State. And they battled back and kind of made it a game before Kansas State pulled away at the end. But that was the week after I think they had beaten Texas. And he was just like handling success is also just as difficult sometimes. He goes, we were not fortunate enough to be one of those teams this past weekend, but there's going to be a lot of teams out there that everybody's written and talked and all those things. They're going to have a hard time handling success after just 1 week. And that's part of coaching too. So yeah, but you can't let them beat you twice. You got to move on, flush it, and because one unbelievable opportunity that hasn't come around here. I don't know, Cowan, Arkansas back in what would that have been, 16, 17, somewhere in that range. And again, Arkansas wasn't near as good as Oregon. You weren't near as good as you're supposed to be now. We've talked NC State, Ole Miss that came in the early 2000s. I just don't really remember you'd have to go back to the Nebraskas and the Miamis when you've had an opponent ranked and show up at your place in a non-conference game. It just doesn't, really happen. So I think, and it's just the schedule in some ways is perfect. Now we'll see if it drops you to 0-2 or if it was perfect and you get it all back, and then can start to create some momentum again.
Chris, what else did you take away from that conversation yesterday? I know that Coach McGuire was, also talking offensively about things his offensive line could do better, defensively about the pass rush not being there. He talked about self-inflicted wounds, which is just a common conversation every year, it seems like. Talked about the kicking game. What else did you walk away thinking about yesterday?
Yeah, his list was the following. He had they turned in a bunch of penalties. I think they felt like the 15 yards on Josiah Pierre that they looked at for targeting, and they called that a late hit. There's nothing late about it. I mean, and he either hit him or he didn't. If he didn't hit him, he flew right over him. And so what is the unnecessary roughness for? So I think they were frustrated about that. Obviously frustrated at the officials and their own kicker for the end of the halftime deal. But I think that he pinpointed a few things that I think – summed up why they lost. Okay. I think his list was the following. And I don't think he was trying to discredit Wyoming or anything. I think that this is just these are the things that we, after we rewatched it again, rushing lanes with our pass rushers, just guys being disorganized and kind of undisciplined. And, I think Tim DeRuyter even talked about, it's like a guy's supposed to be, dropping to the 5 and he drops to the 10-yard line, or, just some slight miscommunication here and there. And then I think he even said it's all about DYJ. Because whenever you start getting in a game and you start feeling pressed, or you're in a game, it's like, okay, I'm going to do my job and then maybe try to do somebody else's. And then it's like, whenever you got a few guys kind of doing that, okay, now we're out of whack, because you're not only trying to do your thing, you're trying to do a little bit of mine. And what if I'm trying to do the same thing? And then we've got havoc going on. So they'll learn from that. I think offensive line wise and just offensively in general, they didn't think that they finished blocks well. It's like they'd get a hold of somebody and then just not finish it. And I think that Joey felt like the interior of his offensive line was just not as good as he thought it would be out of the gate. And again, I'm sure that some of that's going to have to go to credit Wyoming a bit. That's just the nature of the beast, because that was their strength. And he just said it very bluntly: make your field goals. That's how you win games, especially close ones. You got to make them. And I think they were most frustrated with Gino, and they felt he was fine. He was really down after the game, but they think he's fine. He was just so good in fall camp. I think Joey even said this is the thing that maybe shocked me the most out of anything else, that he had a few issues there. But the miss off the goalpost with 5 minutes to go, and then kicking it low, where off the back of your own lineman. I don't think they had too much of an issue with the end of the halftime, just because of the circumstances. Because what Gino was waiting on was for Austin McNamara to kind of point to him. Okay, you ready? Okay, here we go. And instead, that ball is getting snapped as soon as they whistle. It's a whistle play or a mayday play, whatever you want to call it. And I think he was waiting on McNamara, and it's just one of those little things. And so he hesitated just a bit, and that's why there was just not enough distance on it, and he pushed it to the right. But those are that was why. But just make your field goals. And as we've talked, I think you'll realize, and I hope that at some point we move on from that conversation, but I think you'll realize Kosai Eldridge, Krishawn Merriweather, and Trey Wolf were really good at football last year. These are guys that were sneaky, under the radar reasons why you got this thing turned around. You started playing consistent. You won all those things. And it's hard to replace some of those guys, but this is what you're tasked with, and you better start in a hurry.
Yeah, time is running out as hump day is on the horizon, and then it's game day back at the Jones on Saturday night. I just I really hope, Chris, that, again, you can rely on some of that veteran seasoning this week to help pick your guys up, rally the troops, as we've been talking about, because when you need that as far as rallying the troops, I really don't know what else you can point to, because a coach can only say so much. I think you need some of that on the field stuff as far as guys who have been through the fire and obviously bounced back from a loss or handled adversity in whatever way. So hopefully that is ongoing as we speak.
Yeah, and I'll be absolutely floored and stunned if this group doesn't rebound and play really well. Not just hard. I know they're going to do that, but if they don't play really well, if you go back and look last year, I think like the points per game on offense, it's something like 18 to 20 more at home than it was on the road for whatever reason. And some of that, I think you started backup quarterbacks on the road, at Oklahoma State, at Kansas State, at NC State, so there was some of that going on as you're working through that process where those were road games. But still, I know you, other than the Baylor game at home, you really played well on offense at home. You were faster, you executed, all these different things. So anyway, I'm looking forward to the weekend. I think it's just it's a free spin of the wheel, man. And and if you don't get it, it still doesn't affect your conference race or anything like that. It's all still attainable. But if you get it done, you will have made news for the right reasons and not the wrong ones, unfortunately, like the last weekend.
That's exactly right, and that's what we're hoping for, and hoping you'll continue to join us throughout the week as we get you ready for Red Raiders and Ducks. We'll begin to turn our attention to those Ducks on tomorrow's episode. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss one. Chris, appreciate the time as always, my man. Enjoyed it, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Keep hope alive, everybody.
You got it. For Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Thanks for joining us once again, and we hope to see you for the next round right back here on Locked On Texas Tech.